Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Way is in Training. This is a podcast exploring how warriors should train and fight, as well as how they should live. We will talk about technique, but we'll also dive deep into fitness, mindset, and strategy. We will explore leadership and philosophy as well. So whether you are a young soldier, a veteran police officer, a responsible armed citizen, or simply someone looking for an authentic life, let's examine how the lessons of combat and preparation for it can help us fulfill our potential. Let's explore the way together and learn how the discipline of training can show us our true selves amidst the chaos of life. Hey everybody, I've got Tony Blauer back on the show again, creator of the Spear System and a huge foundational influence in my training, even though he didn't know it at the time. So just in case anybody missed the first episode or doesn't understand the world of combatives and self-defense and has never heard of you, why don't you tell everybody real quick a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get started.
So my elevator speech, basically. So we're stuck in an elevator for about an hour, so I can tell you the journey. I got to practice this more because I get asked it a lot, Matt, and I'm like, where do I start? So if I start with little Tony was always afraid of every single sport or every activity. So I've got this really unique relationship of fear, and I should explain it it was fear of letting down other people. It was fear of dropping the ball for the team, fear of striking out, fear of looking bad, all this stuff. And some people might just very quickly say, oh, self-sabotage, but it wasn't that. As a real good athlete, I got dirty, I got hurt, I tried, but I remember always carrying the weight of fear all along. And so that kind of developed into what I think is our most important program. I happen to be wearing that shirt today, the No Fear shirt, which is one of the verticals in our company. That fear growing up led me to experience violence on the wrong end of the stick, if you will. And probably the most significant confrontation I had was getting jumped when I was about 11 or 12. Two guys are about 16, and that's a big age size difference. Yeah. I know now people are monsters. I can't believe, what 12-year-old boys, 12-year-old girls look like. They're huge, right? I don't know what's in the water. But back then, when you were 12 and someone was 16, there was a big difference. And this was 1972. And I got jumped. And these guys were welcoming me to high school. And I remember telling my dad, I went home, I said, hey, I just got beaten up by two guys. And I didn't have a mark on me. My shirt wasn't torn. I didn't have a black eye or a bloody nose. And I think he made some sort of joke, or I hallucinated him saying, what was it, a pillow fight? What happened? And but I was terrified to go to school. It was like, welcome to high school next year. This is what you're going to get. And he said, well, you're going to go to school, but you should learn how to defend yourself. And he introduced me to a mutual love of ours now, martial arts. And I thought martial arts was really going to change and save my life. It did change my life, but what I was looking for was freedom from fear. I hated the noxious effect of fear, that indecision, the self-doubt, the anxiety related to it. It didn't give me those answers, and so I ended up it was kind of serendipitous. I fell in love with teaching martial arts. There's a famous Latin expression, qui docet decet, those who teach learn. I didn't learn that until I started teaching police. You remember ASLET, the American Society of Law Enforcement Trainers. Well, that was their slogan. And so I didn't start teaching for law enforcement until 1993. But in 1975, I knew that if I started teaching people, that I would get better. I just fucking knew that. And I started teaching anyone who wanted to learn. Had my first student in 1977, started getting paid in 1980. Then one of my students got his ass kicked in 1980, this kid, Mitch. And I describe it, I write about it every so often. I say, Mitch getting dropped hurt me more than it hurt him. I was so obsessed with making people safe. It was almost like I was vicariously trying to help others so that they never felt what I felt, the fear And so that obsessed, conscientious protector was always wondering, am I leaving something out? Is there something I could have done more in the class? I know the class was supposed to be 45 minutes and I kept you 3 hours. Sorry. But did I leave anything out? And it was literally like that. I mean, I can remember 90-minute seminars that go 5 hours, all day seminars where we'd work till midnight. I'd say I literally can remember multiple times saying to people going, hey, I'm going to keep teaching. If you got to go, you got to go. Like, I'm going to keep teaching. I just fucking loved it. But I realize now that it was also trying to fill a hole in me that I didn't understand. And as a result, all of that turned into, and you can attest to this because it sounds like I'm just obnoxious and being grandiose, the world's first truly behaviorally based self-defense system based on neurobiology, kinesiology, and psychology, based on what really happens to the human mind and body. And you're a lifelong martial artist, so I expect an element of bias, but you're also a fan of what I do. And I tell people, like, it's like people arguing over a Glock versus a SIG. I go, well, if you can't get the whole gun out of the holster because of fear or because of startle, flinch, and overwhelm, who cares if you had a Glock or a SIG, right? If you can't aim the target and hit at the target because you're like, oh, fuck, I'm going to die, and you can't manage your fear, who cares if you were practicing Weaver or isosceles or trained with XYZ Instagram expert or whatever? So my system became this amalgamation of how do we improve our self-awareness so we improve our situational awareness, because there's a connection and it's taught independently and it can't be, and we can dig into that after. And then how do we manage fear? Because the first place we're hit in real life is emotionally, psychologically. Our second brain, our gut. Like if you think about every time when you were on missions deploying, bad shit was about to go down. If things weren't happening chaotically around you, there was always a moment where you went, something's wrong here, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's that sixth sense, right? But a lot of people were cavalier about that. They either didn't believe in it. And so we teach people, try to trust intuition, instincts, and intelligence, and then make your moves from there. So we built a system around neurobiology, kinesiology, psychology. We then, in the 80s, I discovered that when your situational awareness was compromised, because situational awareness it's an active skill. You got to know what you're looking for, and you got to be awake. So you can be asleep and all this telegraphic stuff is happening around you, but you're asleep. You're still going to get hit. You can be awake looking at it, but if you're not trained, maybe your intuition is something's off, but you're like, you can't track what the fuck's going on here. There's something off here. Yeah, it's the guy in the trench coat and it's 90 degrees out and everyone else is wearing bathing suits. What's something here, right? So there's, it will be the proverbial, like, what's the anomaly here? But then there was a factor that I connected to accidentally, and that is, if we don't understand how to manage psychological fear, not just physiological fear, tunnel vision, tachypsyche, auditory exclusion, some of the classic symptoms of sudden fear, but psychological fear was the self-talk, the negative, the pejorative self-talk that many people have. And in the warrior class, in the type A, alpha male, alpha female community, most people won't talk about this. Why'd you hesitate? What do you mean? Right? It looked like you didn't do this. Most people won't talk about it. I made people talk about it in a way that didn't feel shameful or I remember this one incident. We're still locked in the elevator, everybody. I'm still telling my story. When is this elevator going to fucking open? How old is this guy that this story is going on? He's old. But I remember working with 10th Group over in Stuttgart, and I get over there, and the first day I show up, they had just finished doing a scenario mission where they had a place they didn't use a lot, so it was like a cold hit on a scenario house, and they had a role player in the shadows in a center fed room way at the back. So number one comes through the door, breaks left, and takes 3 simunition rounds in the neck. But most of the houses that they train in there's not a lot of center fed rooms, as you know, in places, right? Yeah. And so this was like center fed room, which shouldn't have been missed, but it was missed because of a lot of people run etch a sketch tactics. I don't know if you ever heard that. I think I coined it. Etch a sketch tactics. Remember etch a sketch?
Yes,
right?
No, I do. I'm old enough to, yeah.
Yeah. So most of you on this call, well, hopefully they're old like you and me, and they know what etch a sketch is. But there might be some new people Googling what the fuck is etch a sketch here. But I would call it etch a sketch tactics, where people would just like come in and and run walls, even if the room was empty. Like you step in the room and the room is empty, go towards the open door. You don't have to fucking run the wall if the room's empty. And a lot of training houses were just completely empty, and people would still run walls. Like I used to make. I think I coined that back in the early '90s, because I did not coming from the organizations, the teams or whatever. I'd go, what are you fucking doing? Why are you guys doing this on the walls? What do you mean? It's like he breaks like, if I break left, I take field of fire. I go, but there's no one in the room. You can see that. Why don't you just immediately get to the next fucking door as fast as possible? And they'd be like, you're from Canada. Shut up and stay on the catwalk. Like, what are you? So I'm since an American citizen, so I can critique it more effectively now. But this guy got hit, center fed room. And when he got nailed, that submunition rounds travel about 400 feet per second, and they sting, right?
Yeah.
And so he gets hit and his body flinches and he stalls up in the doorway while he does this, because he doesn't know. He's never saw the center fed room because he was etch a sketch left.
Yeah.
And he got hit with 3 rounds because the guy had an MP5, sim, gun, whatever. And it just fucking that 3 round, bang, 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 hit him. He flinched. So number 2 got jammed behind him and he got shot. Number 3 shoved everyone in. Now they knew there was a guy there. They went and took out the role player. But here's the thing: when I got back to when I arrived at the post, these guys were in a team room, and there was like a heated argument, Matt, with this guy who they thought was a good operator, but they were really disappointed that he stopped in the fatal funnel, that he was stopped in the doorway, right? And they were arguing like, some people are like way over the top. I'm not deploying with him. What the fuck's that? That's an amateur thing, blah, blah, blah. And then when I heard what happened, I sat there and I like literally in 5 minutes, man, I said, guys, if the guy made it to the team and he's passed all the physical requirements and he's fucking went jumping with you and breached doors with you and done missions with you, and now you're suddenly questioning his courage because of this one training event. So he got hit with 3 rounds in soft, fragile area in the neck. And this is what I'm here. They'd never trained with me. This is what I'm here to explain to you. Neurobiology overrides cognition. Cognition is don't stop in the fatal funnel. You get hit, if your nervous system gets hit in a way that executive function gets hijacked, cognitive brain is bypassed, your physiology will take over. And you've got to recalibrate and then make shit happen. But that could take 1 second, half a second, a tenth of a second. I said, if those were 3 real rounds from a rifle, would he have flinched and stayed in the doorway? They said no, he'd have just dropped dead. Right. So 3 rounds right in the fucking neck head. You would have known where the bad guy was right away if that was a real ambush. The fact that it was simulation rounds was the problem, and you guys are all overreacting because you don't understand neuroscience and neurobiology. And they sat there and they were like, fuck. And everything just settled down.
So, and I don't mean to hijack the elevator story, but I got a question for you.
Yes, please.
So for those of us, like for the guys that are listening, right? How do you think the best way to optimize, I think your phrase is you weaponize the flinch, right?
Yeah.
What's the best way for people to learn to do that? Like what's the training protocol you think is the best way to figure out how to do that?
Yeah, well, I have a lineup of people outside my house. They start off doing my laundry, and then they got to carry. I get dragons burned into their forearms, and you remember the old.
They've got to do the two full things of water. In
Yeah,
the
just
position.
holding that there, and by the way, hot students only, 9s and 10s. Thank you. Listen, the coolest thing with the SPEAR system, so SPEAR is an acronym for Spontaneous Protection Enabling Accelerated Response. Spontaneous protection refers to, let's pretend that this glass here, angle is down here. Let's pretend that this glass here, can we see it yet? No, not really. Let's pretend that this item here is super fucking hot, right? And it's some weird modern mug, and I go to pick it up, and I go like this, and I go, "What the fuck? That's hot!" Like the startle response. We've all stepped on a thumbtack or a what's the joke we always make, a Lego, right? We've all stepped on a Lego, stepped on a little rock. We've all grabbed a mug that was just insanely hot and gone, "Fuck, that's hot!" Right? And I always make this joke when I'm doing my live seminars. I go, I got the super hot mug. I'm at some like ski chalet with some beautiful ski bunny there, and I'm trying to show off. And I saunter up and I go, "Is this seat taken?" And then I get my hot chocolate and I go, "So my name's Tony." And I'm like, "Oh, my hand. Oh." And I do that, like the date's over, right? Like as soon as I do that. So everyone laughs and I go, what I need to realize is this, where if I go like this on the mug, and my skin says, "Hey, no situational awareness guy, that's fucking hot." And my neurobiology says, "Get that off there." I'm actually safe right here, right? It's like, safe, unsafe, safe, unsafe. But our nervous system, untrained, overreacts.
Okay.
Right? And so a bullet whips by my head. It doesn't hit me and it goes. But you've seen guys in an ambush, that round didn't hit them or they'd be dead or unconscious, whips them and they go, "Oh, we overreact." Someone takes a punch at you, you turn. You look at most knife assaults where someone ends up getting murdered, there's always trauma on the hands and the forearms. And then it continues. You get to see the back of my shirt, right? With my sign here. But so what's happening there, Matt, is someone goes slash, the startle flinch does this, and then the overreaction of fear is to turn away from the danger and create more space. And so you always see slash, and then a trail down the back. Where I'm getting at, giving a long, substantive answer, is that how do we learn to weaponize the flinch? Is we learn to take the limbic system, amygdala hijack, reactive brain response of flinching. This is the biggest thing here, and I'm wondering, it's just ironically, I found this here. This is from 1990.
Oh wow.
Oh no, it was actually written in 1990. This iteration is 2003. It says on here, but there's a slide in here. Our book now is like 90 pages. But I just found this cleaning up some shit. So there's a SPEAR system, the first behaviorally based combative system. And the what I would tell people is, what I found is particularly with men, is most men don't ever want to flinch because they associate flinching with some effeminate or cowardly like behavior. So if I jump through the screen right here, you wouldn't go wax on, wax off. If I said, "I'm jumping through the screen," and you went, "You can't do that, man. This isn't the Matrix." And I went, and I came right through your screen, you'd be like that, man. That was perfect. And you'd be falling down over your chair. What the fuck, man? Backwards. Why? Because a stimulus was introduced too quickly that you didn't even see coming and couldn't even fathom it. Now, if I did that twice, your movement would change. If I said, "Here I come," you'd block the camera, right? At some point, I'd be coming through and now you'd be in a stance, what? And you'd nail me. And it's the joke I make, like when Tyson bit Holyfield. You remember the fight where he bit his ear?
Oh, yeah. I remember.
I said, bites in boxing clinches always work. And the only way and it's not the first time a boxer's been bit. The only way you would get rid of biting in boxing is to allow it. meaning pain is the mother of invention. If so, you go to deploy and you find out that the bad guys are now doing certain setups for their bombs, for their kidnappings. As soon as you learn it, it's no longer effective, right? Pain is the mother of invention. So it's the same. It's the same thing with this stuff. So back to the spear is I recognized in the 80s. So it was like 1987, 1988 when I really figured it out. And I didn't come up with the acronym until I was working with Naval Special Warfare in 1993. We used to call it SPEAR because my empty hand stance was this shape. And if you go to the angle, the hands were the shape of a spear. And I would say, playing on the warrior, this was given to me by a bunch of students, but the old adage, be the tip of the spear, real warrior spear. And so it was always like this idea here is like hold now, and then I'd move and I'd be the tip of the spear. And I would always say, you need to be in your fight, your point. There were all these wonderful metaphors over these classic like warrior lines. You're in your fight, your point, be the tip of the spear, et cetera, et cetera. And so my fighting stance for a long time was not, I love boxing and I boxed for years, but then that turned into more of this position here. And what I do is if you came at me with a headbutt, a haymaker, a tackle, I would impale the attack. I'd be reading all the pre-contact cues, and I'd be in there, and I would say impale the attack to my students, like be the tip of the spear. And then when I worked with Naval Special Warfare, it became such a good move. We had figured out, I got to pin that and go sidetrack for a second. We had figured out a 6-stage drill where you analyzed auditory, visual, and tactile pre-contact cues. You studied them in slow motion, and the process actually made you faster in real life. And it's called emotional climatization training. And it's called ECT. It's one of our most famous drills. We've been doing it for decades now. People fucking freak over it because it's slow motion. And when you do test, retest, you're like wildly faster. Because what you're doing is you're educating the reticular activating system of your brain. And so it's improving signal speed. So there's no such thing as muscle memory in the traditional sense of the way we want it. What there is there's neuromuscular communication, but I need to have some sort of ignition, like what's going to make me move. And so so the cue, so if I said to you, I'm going to teach you like 3 things to do if a guy tries to sucker punch you. Well, the boxer says, everyone get in your stance. Okay. When he throws an overhand right, bob and weave or block or parry or slip. If you're the Wing Chun guy, you get in a stance like this, and the guy comes in here like this, and you do a bong sao or do something. All of these do this when he does this have 2 fatal flaws. One of the flaws is you start off in a stance, an agreed to stance. The other flaw is a physics neuroscience flaw. I'm making up words. Physics neuroscience flaw. And that is, you remember the old if then go to from DOS?
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like a decision-making language. So this is one of the biggest flaws in self-defense. And I say this as a 50-year, like I'm turning 65 in May. I've been doing martial arts of some sort since I'm 7. So people, when I hear this, they go, fuck Blauer, he's always putting down. No, I'm all of it. But what I've done is I've been able to parse and separate what is essential for survival from, isn't this cool to know and learn how to do, right? Like you're a lifelong martial artist and you've forgotten more techniques and counters than most people ever learn because of your study. But if during this podcast right now, 2 guys broke in your house, you're going to grab a fucking gun and a tomahawk and you're going to shoot a guy in the face and hit a guy in the head or shoot both guys in the head. You're not going to go, I wonder if I should use this move from this ancient art. You're just going to stop the threat as efficiently as possible. And so, that's the thing that we need to do is put the ego and the politics aside and go, are we now having a discussion about culture, martial arts, our love of martial arts, our romantic ideas of, like I love a good John Wick movie. I've been studying violence for 30 plus years. 40 years, 30 years, where I've had access to helmet cam, body cam, CCTV. I have never in 30 years seen anything remotely close to a Bruce Lee fight, a John Wick fight, a Jackie Chan fight, ever. And so I didn't go, I said, well, this is what I hypothesized in the 80s when I kind of stripped down everything. So I still haven't answered your question. Here we go. When the body flinches, the eyes and the head and the shoulders move independent of thought. So if I said, I got you duct taped in a chair and I said, Matt, I'm a fucking microfilm and tell me when the next checkpoint is. And you go fuck yourself. And I smack you. Your body does this without even thinking. The eyes close, the head turns. Eventually you get stress inoculated, and you go, hit me all you want. I'm not fucking telling you. And I smack you, you just turn, right? But the first few times it happens, the startle response initiates just because the survival system is agitated, right? It's stimulated. And what moves are eyes, head, and shoulders. And then if their hands aren't tied, the hands will come up to protect. And that's why you see when someone's getting their ass kicked on the ground, they're in a fetal position, they're covered like this. I figured out in the 80s, and it was the coolest thing. If I could speed up my hands, then my hands would come up faster to the head. And then this part from ulna to elbow would be like a tactical windshield wiper. The metaphor was your assault was like a sudden storm. And you're coming at me, just fucking nailing me. And if I could get my hands up faster, and if I could penetrate and move in, I could overhook, underhook, own the center line, smash you in the face with a forearm. And it was all primal gross motor. This is the coolest fucking shit. So like an overhook is still a complex motor skill. If you do it wrong, you can get thrown, you get fucking tripped, you can get, right? But if I just went slam and I came at you and I'm just driving into you, I don't know where my hands are going to go. Is this hand in your face? Is this hand in your nose? Did I hit the brachial? Did I hit your chin? Did I hit your windpipe? So you go to hit me, those hands come up. So I worked on this I couldn't affect the speed of the flinch because that was pure neuroscience, but I could affect the speed of the conversion by how fast I got my hands up. So if you ever train with me, if you got in any of my videos over the years of spear, you would always hear me say hands first, hands first, hands first. So everything we do, not posture, hands first. Spear stance, hands first, feet second. And I explain to people what we're actually doing is sprinting with our cross extensor chain. So if I want to make you run faster, I'm going to give you like an intelligent hill sprint routine, and you're going to get faster doing sprints, right? Rest here, run, walk back down, run. So by going hands first, hands first, hands first, I'm training ears, eyes, head. But now what I've done is separate to what nature intended. I've now made this mechanism faster than nature had intended it by doing all of these drills. It's very fucking cool. So what happens is the first time this hypothesis came to fruition, I don't know if I told you this in our first talk.
I'm not sure.
Have you ever heard me tell the Madison story?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay. So Madison's my first daughter. In my house when I used to live up in Canada, we had a skylight in the window, a carpet in the hallway. I get up in the middle of the night. I forgot to bring a glass of water. Thirsty as shit. I get up. I'm rubbing my eyes, trying to adjust to the light. Moonlight's coming in. My daughter's 7 years old. She's light as a feather, and she had fucking hair like Blair Witch. And you know those dolls in horror movies where they pan the shelf and there's a doll, and also the eyelids open, and you're like, holy shit. Right? Like, so she had like this porcelain white skin, and I walking out my door through the fatal funnel, and then she's walking here, and she's 7 years old and her hair's fucking like this. I'm rubbing my eyes, and as I bring my hands down, there's a fucking witch standing beside me. I don't go, that's Madison. I go, it's a fucking witch, man. And I immediately from here go, yeah, like a micro flinch, and immediately my hands shoot towards her, like right in her eye line. And so pretend you're her, and be like, fuck, right? My hands are over here like this. She goes like this. She's like, hi, Dad, and walks by me, right? I always make the joke, like, she didn't even flinch. She wasn't even scared. I probably could have taken her with a back kick there, but whatever. But I was like, after that, I was like, holy shit. Because I had been, I've been hypothesizing about this idea that if I practice flinching and practice converting, that when I get a real stimulus that triggers a real flinch, I'll convert in real life. Until then, it had been synthetic stimuli. So this is the first time I really got scared. And then the other times I'd be out, let's say in the woods, or a dog would bark, and I'd be like, whoa, hands would shoot. I'm like, holy shit. And now, like, it's happening all over the world with people we train, and we created a Trojan horse nonviolent posture sequence for cops, so they could be standing there with their hands on hips if they're a backup cop, or arms crossed talking to a guy, or half negotiator, full negotiator. And I got body cam footage now of cops in half negotiator, where a guy takes his glasses off and goes, well, if I'm going to jail, I guess I'm going to fight you. And they go, wham, and they fucking explode out of the Trojan horse. Because in the past, what cops would always do is, they're talking, and then when it was time to fight, they would create space, blade, and then their hands would move down towards their kit or index, or they go, wouldn't want to do that if I were you. There was some sort of movie line.
Yeah. Back, sir.
Yeah.
In my academy, it was always back, sir. Yeah.
So, and we always say, like, in our stuff, and we train like law enforcement full time all over the world. And we tell them in the spear system, because every cop is taught to create space. And what they invariably do accidentally is they make the cop move backwards. Sir, I'm telling you to, sir, I'm not going to ask you again. Like, you're doing this sort of shit. And I always say, you don't know what's behind you at all times, but you always know what's behind your suspect. So if you're going to create space in a violent encounter, don't step backwards, move the suspect backwards. And so we have a whole methodology for that.
I really like that, Coach. And I want to add something in, if you don't mind, if that's okay.
Please.
So,
do you know anything about violence or anything? Go ahead.
I've seen a little bit here and there on TV. John Wick movies.
Yeah. Then if you've seen John Wick movies, then feel free to add context.
So one of the things I have a big heartache with that's taught currently is the retreating bill drill. I really don't like the retreating bill drill for a couple reasons. You know what I'm talking about, right? Where, you're at contact distance and the guy goes for a gun, so you back up and you do the bill drill. And one of the reasons is what you just talked about. You don't know what's behind you for sure. Even if you knew what was behind you, it could have changed, right? But two is, I think psychologically what that creates, because I think there's a strong mental component to fighting no matter what the tool set you're using is. Right? There's a big psychological aspect to it. This guy is obviously in some respect predatory because he's drawing a firearm on a cop, right? So if I back up, have I made his shooting problem any more difficult to solve? No, I can't back up fast enough to do that. And what's even more important, I think, is that psychologically to him, I look like I'm giving up, like I'm defeating myself, like I'm being submissive to him. Whereas if I'm aggressive in towards him, it's the opposite effect, I think. And I think with what you're talking about, like something I really like about it is it's kind of that same factor too. Like if the policeman's backing up going, back, sir, as he backs away, that looks submissive to a lot of people that have been in a lot of violent situations. It looks like they now have the upper hand. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's very nuanced. I agree. I always tell people, like, if I think you're following me, this isn't a great example, but if I think you're following me and I kind of look over my shoulder and then I start walking faster away, you'll start walking faster going up. He's trying to get away, and predator prey further establish their rules.
Right.
So in our gunfighting courses, one of their drills, and I got to qualify this, it's hard to do this over video and have it make sense because so many people would go, what's he talking about? This bullshit. I mean, so I just posted a meme on my Instagram page today. It's so good. It's I got to read it to you because everything's context. And so the meme is, and it's wild. So it's this here, and I'll read it. Okay, but it's, oops, what the fuck just happened there? It just switched to. So that's the meme there, but I'll
yeah, I think I saw that on your feed today,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact.
So a girl says, is 4 followers a lot? And the guy says, depends on context. In Instagram, not at all. In a dark alley, yes, a lot. Right. And so, 4 followers, pretty fucking funny. So, do you have a Derringer and the bad guy's got, some 50 caliber submachine gun, and there's distance and you're near like actual barricade, not cover. Right. So context is moving away on an angle and shooting while you're moving so you can get to legit cover, and maybe then look around like MacGyver for some, bubble gum and a fucking, paper clip. Go, how am I going to get out of here? Why did I show up with a Derringer? So context is everything. We do a drill where we're in like touching distance here, and I have people, be standing here in position, and I'll go from the side there. Everyone's standing here ready. And I never do surrender position when we do our drills. You're in a nonviolent posture. You're talking. You're moving. Why would you draw from here? I never got that. But so then everyone goes draw, and everyone's like, fuck. And they're coming out with their weapon. Then I say, everyone on this side here, you're police officers. What are you taught to do if someone's got a knife or a gun? You create space. So we have one guy drawing the gun, and then I go, use the neural patterns as a police officer. And now I yell, the action is gun, and you see people stepping back like in the Tueler drill.
Right.
Right. And this person almost always loses unless there's like some sort of spazzy malfunction of getting the gun out in the other part, right? And then I do another iteration, which is very cool, Matt, like this. And I'm gonna do something with you. Are you left-handed or right-handed shooter?
Right-hand shooter.
Okay, good. So what I want you to do is, I want you to either, if you have a training gun or with your finger like this, I can't see your table here, but I want you to really quickly point it at me. Point your hand at me. Okay, but so I can't see it. So
Yeah,
so the camera, so it's offline there.
Yeah, I'll do it on this side. Yeah.
Yeah, do it on this side here. So point it. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. So now one of the iterations here, and guys, I'm showing you something that we do live. It's got context in a 3-dimensional environment, and this is just for learning purposes here. Don't fucking shoot your monitor, and don't try to do this. But what we do is this: action's faster than reaction. So you have a gun under a table. I have a gun, appendix carry right now. Go to shoot me, Matt. I'm like, oh fuck, stick it up so everyone can see that it's in my head. Over more towards me, like find me there. There you go. Like if you can. Beautiful. All right. So I can see. Go ahead, shoot me again. I'm always gonna get shot here unless your finger has a malfunction. Right? So at extreme close quarter. So the big light bulb moment drill works like this. I'm talking to you. I'm going, hey man, you got any firearms on you? You go to shoot me now? And I go, did you see at that point there? You can't see my hands. Do that again. I'm going, hey Matt, calm down. You go to shoot me whenever you want. My hands are over here. Keep the hand up there.
Yep.
So see this? So I'm over here. Can you guys see that my startle flinch and getting offline met Matt's hand coming up? So his extensor chain moves. My optic nerve picks up a whole bunch of pre-contact cues. There's nothing faster than a flinch. Wax on, wax off requires a learned neural pattern and a decision to go. If I say to you, I don't give a fuck if you like snakes or not, but if I say, hey dude, do you own a snake? And you go, no, why? I go, what the fuck's that? You're like, what the fuck, right? You like if you had a pet snake, you go, yeah, that's Molly and the snake. She's looking for a mouse, right? But if you didn't have one or you didn't have a spider, the startle response, unless you spent summers in the jungle and knew not to flinch and trained yourself out of it, there'd be the flinch. But the drill, and this is the important thing, and try to do it like, because I know the camera's offline, point your finger towards me if you can. When that happens there, and I go, fuck, I don't want to get hit, that is the only chance I have to deflect the gun at close quarter.
Yep.
And so the next drill we do, so we do a drill where we show, I call this sport versus sport, IPSC versus IPSC, where I just go, ready, beep, and we both go and we draw.
Right.
And usually, if we've got a similar holster and similar training, it's almost like a race to where you can't really tell. Now I go, what type of ammo? And you go, I got mine like dirt cheap from China. I go, well, you had a malfunction. I've got federal ammo. You got shot there, dude. Again, we're making a joke. The next one we do, I say, insert the habit of law enforcement, or even in a lot of military training, which is gun, and people move back. Their reflex is to move back. So now, when I say gun, you shoot at me, and ready, gun, and I go like this, I'm always going to be second. So what I do to people there is I say, when I yell gun, don't go to your gun, go to his gun. So now, when I say gun, you bring your hand up, gun, and I see that happening. See, and you move there. That would have been great there. So now what you're doing is you're accessing the speed of the flinch to deflect that. And then what we practice is what I call a startle flinch draw. So we go from here, and I'm wearing a brace for my back and pink shorts. So there's only two people that can wear pink. Jean LaBelle, the great Jean LaBelle, used to always wear a pink gi. Anyone know? Google Jean LaBelle, one of the greatest judo grapplers ever. But he always used to wear a pink gi. So people who didn't know him would go, "Who's this fucking guy with a pink gi?" And then he choked them out, right? But we would go from here, right, in position, where I realized that doing this second always made me second. You want to be second in a gunfight. And then if I'm here and I go, fuck, he's got the drop on me, this sort of motion, either getting the hands out, deflecting it, or parrying it this way, got that weapon offline. And that gave me the chance to get in and come over the top or shoot the guy in the pelvis or the leg right away and get something off there. So the sequence went where we went action versus action to realize, just to see, who's got speed, quickness, and that. Then it was adding the nuance of what was the accidental bad habit you had learned. And remember, context, guys, this is for a fight in an elevator, a fight between two cars, a fight like a vehicle stop. It's not like, like if you were 25 yards from somebody, why would you run towards them?
Yeah.
You pull the gun. Now that, there you should, take aim and fucking drop them if you can. But this last part there, and you did it really well there, is because if you're waiting to see the gun, you might be late. But if you realize he's drawing the gun, you're startle flinch. And I just tell people, imagine if you didn't have a gun. And sometimes what I would do in our gunfighting classes, it's really cool, is like a lot of people are wrestling with this. Like even when we're doing cert pistols and red guns, and where people are still freaking out, I make them take their duty gear off. And I realize, like, what if someone walked up to you when you were unarmed and went, motherfucker, right? Like, what are you going to do this? The only chance
you might if you've been training the wrong way.
Correct. And then you get that phantom movement too. I would do that sometimes where in class, I'd finish a week of a military class and go teach I was just joking about this week where a lot of my military classes, I use the old SAS like leg holster, the drop holster.
Yeah.
And I'd be there like this in class teaching like a defense against a tackle, and someone would slam and I'd hit him with a half spear, and then I'd put my hand here, and I saw the students putting their hand here, and I go, why the fuck are you guys putting your hand on your thigh? And they go, Coach, we were doing what you were doing. I go, I don't do that. They go, sorry, no disrespect, you were. And then I did a couple, and I realized I had just done a week of military where I was stopping somebody transitioning to a pistol, and my neural patterns and it started to do that. when I wasn't wearing kit. It was wild. So yes, I can do that.
Yeah, I really like this stuff because I think, and something occurred to me when you were talking about this that I hadn't really thought about in this way before. So I want to kind of run it by you, see what you think. Because I do love all kinds of martial arts, everything from the historical European stuff to the Japanese stuff to, Jeet Kune Do, all of that, right? But a lot of them are around a dueling paradigm. And by dueling, I don't necessarily mean swords. I just mean I have agreed to fight you.
Yeah. Mono.
We are in a fight. Yeah. And whilst violence can happen that way, that's not the way it usually happens. Usually people are looking for the sudden advantage, right? They're looking to be that predator who's going to eliminate things right away and not be in a fair fight.
100%. We call that ACP. We have a whole model around that. ACP is awareness, consent, and preparation. Most fights, MMA, it could be dueling at dawn. 1, 2, 3. ACP, awareness. I know this is going to happen. Consent, I signed up for it. Preparation. Whether you're prepared or not, to what degree is the point. But that's very different from I'm at the ATM going, oh, my kids are going to be so excited. I'm taking cash out there for popcorn at the movie. And you turn around and there's a guy with a gun. You answer the doorbell thinking it's, family for Thanksgiving dinner and it's a home invasion. Someone hits your car and you're like, fuck, my brand new car. And you get out and it's carjacking. So we did a whole talk many years ago, and I did a bunch of talks on what I called the 4 categories, and I named it category after like the hurricane. The category 1 is all classical martial arts. Category 2 are combat sports or reality-based self-defense. The category 4 is a stronger storm, right? I didn't fuck
right.
Up.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So if that's the case, category 1 was all traditional classical martial arts. Category 2 is reality-based self-defense. Category 3 are combat sports like MMA and Thai boxing. And then category 4 was sudden violence. And what I said is, in category 1, you're kicking the air, you're pulling side kicks to the leg, you're punching people here and going, you're lucky I don't follow through because that could kill you. You remember Dim Mak? Remember the death?
God, yeah.
So you remember Robert Bussey?
Yep, I sure do.
Robert Bussey, a buddy of mine, and Robert Bussey was very, very talented martial artist, a small man. He goes up to a guy. He told me this story personally. He went up to a guy who claimed to teach the death touch, and he says, "Hey, you teach the death touch, right?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, "I want you to hit me with it." And the guy says, "Do you realize what you're asking me to do?" He said, "Yeah, hit me with the death touch." And he's like, "You realize that if I do it, it'll kill you." And Bussy looks at him and says, "I'd die to learn a technique like that." And it was like, so there's a lot of these arts out there, like the McDojo page online, right? Where you look at that and you go, what are they doing? Like, has these people ever been punched in the face? And so category 1 are, and you could be like legit Shotokan, Kempo, and you're really good. But unless you're hitting people when you're sparring and stuff like that, so you can be like, Kyokushinkai is a classical traditional martial art, but I would put that in the combat sport academy because those are like nothing tournaments, right? They're fucking nailing each other. There's certain styles of Kempo where like like street fights are more gentle than your black belt testing, right? So it depends on where you're going, what you want. But the categories for me were where we say theoretically this would break your leg, so I'm going to pull it, right? And then reality-based self-defense is still block-based training, where you do cooperative gun disarms and you give it back and you do that, and you like everything is choreographed and coordinated to some degree. How do I know that? And this, people are going to hate me for this because like all the demos look exactly the same all over the world. right? And the ones that get different are someone's found some creative way to theatrically show, even though none of this ever appears in real violence. When you got a cooperative role player, you can choreograph whatever the fuck you want. Then category 3 is combat sports. The problem with all 3 of them is you're practicing what you would like to do to demonstrate your art form.
Yeah.
And so when there is awareness, consent, preparation, we can all look really good. I remember, I tell this story sometimes when I remember to tell it. I'm giving a private lesson to this guy named Howard. Howard was, did you ever see the video of Elaine dancing on the Seinfeld show?
Yes.
Remember it's where she's like doing this and like it's a train wreck. Everyone at the party's like, the fuck, is she okay? It's like she's dancing like this. Howard was like that type of athlete, and he only took private lessons with me. And one day we're leaning against my my wooden dummy at the gym from my Wing Chun days, and we're leaning against my wooden dummy talking about what we're gonna do. And I was explaining to them this principle about sucker punching and the spontaneous attack. And it was the 80s, and I was formulating some of the stuff that I now speak a little bit more, if you will, lucidly about. I understand it way more. But the 80s were my kind of like incubator period where I was figuring shit out. And Howard had 16-ounce gloves on. I had gloves on. We just finished a drill. I'm resting and I'm leaning like against, one of the arms on the wooden dummy. And I said, Howard, if we were in a bar right now, the guy's not going to get up and go, I want to fight you. He's going to sucker punch you. He goes, I understand, coach. I said, I don't think you understand. Let me give you an example. Whenever you want, in the middle of a conversation, Howard, punch me in the face. You got 16-ounce gloves on, just fucking nail me. And I'm talking, and he throws the Elaine hook punch. I say the Elaine hook punch because when he started to move, my brain went, what the fuck is he doing? And it hit me so fucking hard in the head that I yelled at him. We were alone in the gym. He gets here, and I'm thinking I'm going to do like wax on, wax off before Karate Kid was even a movie. I'm going to do some cool, instructor guru shit. And it just fucking clocks me, stuns me. And I look at him and I scream. I go, Howard, who the fuck throws a punch like that? And he looks at me and he goes, sorry, coach, how should I punch you? And it was like this classic kind of in living color. Do you remember the Jim Carrey Living Color karate scene?
Oh yeah.
Most beginners, you attack me wrong, right? And I'm like yelling at him, going, dude, the fuck kind of punch is that? Oh, I'm sorry, Coach Blauer. How should I hit you? And in that moment, and Living Color hadn't even happened there. That was my Living Color moment. Everyone should watch that if you know what it is. Google Jim Carrey Living Color karate sketch and watch the 5-minute sketch. You'll understand. When you practice martial arts a certain way, you create a neural pattern to see the attack happen that way. And when the attack deviates, your brain goes into flux. It's like, what the fuck? That's not what happens. That's not supposed to, right? And so that's what happens in category 4, which is what, and this is like going back an hour when I said my second origin story was Mitch getting dropped. So I was training Mitch for a bully situation at school, and I was training him in the arts that I loved: wrestling, clinching, taekwondo, boxing. And he got sucker punched with a left hook while he had his one arm on the guy's shirt, holding his school books. And the guy went, get your fucking hands off me. And Mitch went, you better stop. And the guy just whack and fucking hit and dropped him. And when he told me the story, he was 15 years old. I was 19 or 20. He goes, I got sucker punched today in school. I'm furious. I go, what happened? He goes, motherfucker. Nah, nah, nah. And I go, what do you mean? I said, what do you mean he just hit you with a left hook, Mitch? Like, why didn't you bob and weave? Why didn't you fucking why didn't you do any of the shit we worked on? And he looks at me, Matt. He says, well, I was holding his shirt and I had all my school books in my hand. And I was like, oh my God. And I literally, I don't know if I ever told you the story. It was like I said, the God of self-defense hit me with a lightning bolt and said, we teach self-defense wrong, meaning we, the world, we teach, let's spar. Oh, I forgot my mouth guard. Okay, we'll go to the body. Okay, let's grapple, down on our knees.
Yeah.
What we don't do is we don't practice what Do you remember the old Pink Panther
Oh yeah.
with
Yeah.
Clusa?
Not now, Cato. Not now, Cato.
Yeah, right. We don't practice that in a smart way, and that was really how I built my scenario system. That turned into high gear. That turned into ballistic microfights.
Well,
It's
I remember reading the article. I think it might have been Inside Kung Fu about the ambush or the surprise attack. And then the old Panther videos. We talked about this last time I had you on the show.
Yeah.
And just how you built the whole thing around getting ambushed.
Yeah.
And that was like a light bulb for me just reading about it. And I didn't know how to articulate it then. You know what I mean? I didn't know how to make sense of it verbally, but I think what we said a minute ago really kind of holds true. Like most fighting systems are predicated around a duel. Like, I am agreeing to fight you with these weapons and these rules in this place at this time.
And listen, for those of you listening here, that might sound like we're criticizing. It's just an observation. You could still die. I was just reading yesterday, a boxer died over the weekend, from punches to the head. That was an agreed to duel, trained for the fight, showed awareness, consent, preparation, knew where to go, knew the weight class, had the rules meeting, and he died. It's still dangerous. So I'm not saying these guys are, I'm not saying you're not dangerous and that you don't have skill. I just taught this weekend, there's a guy, Matt Little, who's a jiu-jitsu, just fucking wizard, but he's a shooter too. He's a father of 6. He's a protector. He's a provider. His son is like a national level wrestling guy. One of his daughters is a cheerleading this, another one's gymnastics. They're all studs. And one of his cauliflower ears could make me tap. I watched him do stuff, and I said, if I ever have to fight this guy Matt Ortiz, did I say Matt Little before?
You did,
but same with you. But this guy Matt Ortiz, I said, if I ever have to fight him, I need to shoot him or stab him, in a place that's going to turn him off right away, because he's so dangerous. Right. So even though most of his training is predicated on the dual principle that you bring up, he's so good, but he's an anomaly. And most people who are really good martial artists aren't predators in the street. Right. So it's a really interesting conversation, but the reality is there are, I don't know if I said this to you last time, but it's pretty provocative. Because everyone says, well, head on a swivel, situational awareness is everything. And I go, well, if situational awareness was everything, no good guys would ever be compromised. No good guys would ever have had their heads cut off after being captured. No good guys would ever be POWs, in the getting grabbed type thing. Obviously, if you're playing get shot down over Vietnam, that's one thing. But my point being is situational awareness is part of the skill set, but it's fallible because you're a human, right? As is everything else. I could punch you and break my hand, and my hand is fallible, and that punch didn't knock you out, and something else happens. So I think a lot of people need to ask themselves, why are they training? What is if you had one skill set, and you said, I'm training because the most important thing is this, then you can go after that. For me, it became, as I taught more and more, people would say to me, I want to be able to protect myself when it matters most. And I had to reframe people and let them know that they weren't going to get attacked by Jet Li and Jackie Chan. That it was going to be some piece of shit, opportunistic piece of shit, who didn't care that you had plans with your family, or that you had a dream to graduate school and do this or whatever. They just needed some dope or some money or your car. And they're just asocial predators. And they weren't like 3rd-degree black belts, and they weren't going to, like Howard, coming at me with a fucking Elaine punch, where my nervous system, if you had come at me with a straight blast, man, I'd have fucking fox out the shit out of you, right? If you had come at me with an overhand right, I'd have bob and weave it. You come at me with the Elaine punch, my brain had never seen the Elaine punch. So what was I going to do? I went, yeah. It was one of the funniest moments ever. I love telling that story. Howard, who the fuck punches like that? And then him apologizing. I'm sorry, coach. How should I punch? And it was in that moment. I literally said to him, Howard, I'm so sorry. He goes, what do you mean? I go, Howard punches like that. Howard would have got the first shot in.
Yeah.
You know, but that's really how I started my company. When Mitch lost his fight, grabbing the guy holding his books, I asked a bunch of local instructors that I was friends with, because my brain was so fucked up from that when it was like this lightning bolt hit me. The lightning bolt of the god of self-defense. We teach self-defense wrong. We don't teach emotional psychological. We don't teach scenario. We say to women, don't wear that. Don't dress like that. You won't get catcalls. You won't get, if you want to wear a fucking tight dress and high heels, do that. Just know that you can't run and assholes are going to go, hey, baby. Right? But to say to somebody, don't grab somebody, don't compromise your hands, and have some cool line, never compromise your hands. You know, a cool line. When we're emotional, you and I get fucking, we're emotionally angry, like arguing over a check. And I go, fuck you, Matt, you motherfucker. And you whisper, you should never have compromised your hands, right? Like it's a movie scene. We are going to go. Pull me out of a car, Matt, as a cop without using your hands. Slam me against the wall and pat me down without using your hands. Pull me out of a bed without using your hands, right? So we do that. We like real fighting involves stuff like that. So it really made me rethink what we were doing, because most of the time we train people like on a mat without some of those qualities or conditions that create context.
And something I was thinking about with your story from your friend that was holding his books, right? Like then the criticism would be, well, you should have had your hands free because you're going to sympathetically grab.
Yeah, that's what all the other martial arts instructors said.
Yeah,
he shouldn't have had his hands.
But you're carrying your school books. How are you supposed to carry them? You're going to have things in your hands,
right?
You know, like I used to practice on the range throwing a ticket book when I was in patrol out of my support hand, because I knew that there was a good chance on a traffic stop, if I got in a gunfight, I might have a ticket book in my hand, right? Yeah. And I didn't want it to default to, I wanted to train that away, you know, at them.
Good. So a lot of people would just throw it down, right? So what you want to do is, if I throw it towards you, I might make you flinch. So if you're pulling a gun, do your hands come up? If the gun was out, did you just shoot high and outside? You know, so some people might go light and then do that. So good, you threw it at right on.
I tend to err on the side of aggressive, and sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah, and that's the context. You know, I was doing something with the Federal Air Marshals years ago. We were outside at the range, and I said to everybody, and we're just working with their shooting guys, and I said to the guys, I said, hey, hydrate, man. It's deceivingly hot out here. Everyone grab some water while I talk for a minute. And they all grabbed a bottle of water out of the whatever the fuck, what do you call the containers that put
the cooler?
I couldn't remember the word cooler. A second, out of the cooler. So what happens when you get old, man? Just the words start disappearing. So they grabbed their water bottles, and guess which hand you will grab your water bottle with if I say, hey, aren't you thirsty? Grab a drink.
Strong hand, probably.
So they're all there, and we're hot on a hot range. There's only 9 of us. They all got water bottles in the right hand. And I look at one of the guys, I can say his name now because he's retired. I go, hey, Cam. I said, I'm going to ask you to do something, and I want you to do it right the fuck away when I ask you to do it. Cool? He says, yeah, sure. I go, take another swig of your drink. He goes, okay. He's looking at me. I go, shoot that target right now. And he's like this. And he goes like this. Like, fuck. And he puts it down and draws, and, you know, fucking, he's a great shot. Shoots the target. I go, dude, it's a plastic water bottle. Why didn't you just go, I don't have it. Why didn't you just go, oh, fuck, boom, and drop it? Or why didn't you go like this, wow, and throw it at the target and then come in behind it?
Yeah.
So your story with the book made me, but what was interesting is when we have neural patterns, like you don't drop water bottles, you put them down on, you ever see the Larry David episode where he finds a water ring on top of a table? And I don't know if you ever watched Curb Your Enthusiasm.
No, I never did. The salty guy, right? That's always
like, yeah. Such a good show, Curb Your Enthusiasm. But anyways, the point being is like we're like, oh, thanks. Don't put your drink down there. Put a coaster down there. So we're trained like that. So when I said shoot the target, like he was, let's say 35, 32 years of conditioning. Don't put your drink down anywhere. Find a place to put it down where it's not gonna so in that motion, he had never done a single rep. So remember I said earlier, we're educating the reticular activating system. That's to develop pre-contact cue awareness. But then what we want to create are these neural patterns to fill up gap time between stimulus response refractory delay. So if I've got a drink in my hand and I got a concealed carry and I'm in an active shooter event and someone comes in and starts blasting, I got something in my hand, I want to go like this and go, fuck, and whip this at where I'm already starting to move. But, I make people practice that. You're fucking horrible at it when you first start that. Things are going on. But because you're just not coordinated. And then you dial it in and hope you never have to use it, but it becomes a skill set. So I love that you threw that at him. Good job, man.
I mean, it was just a paper target, but my thought was I wanted that to be my reaction, not hanging on to it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's great that you did that. I dig it.
So I think even with our technical difficulties, we're about at an hour. Let's tell everybody once again, in case they missed the last one, how to best get a hold of you and how to patronize you for your wisdom and experience and your learning potential.
First of all, I don't like being patronized. Oh, you mean be a consumer?
Yes.
Please consume my material. Listen, there's a bunch of ways. If you're in law enforcement or public safety, hit me up. There's a great link for I do during the Summer of Love when cops were being defunded. I filmed about 6 hours of online training, 4 1.5-hour courses. Some of the language in it is dated because it was during the whole BLM era and all that. So there's some reference to that, but the material in it is wicked. So it's free if you're active duty. If you contact me, it's on my Instagram page. It's a pinned thing, free training. Hit me up on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. I answer all the stuff. I don't have any bots working for me yet. I've got a bunch of courses. I know a lot of people don't like to train on Zoom. I always joke, if you don't like to train on Zoom, it's either 2 reasons. One, you are not coachable and you don't really want to learn. Like you and I have talked a bunch of times, right? And like we get ideas for training.
Oh yeah.
Because our brains are sponges and we want to get better. So I always tell people, if someone says you don't want to learn on Zoom, I get it that in person is 3-dimensional and it's cool, but especially if you're learning psychological things and thinking things and strategy things and even little gun sequence that I was doing with you, right? Like you learn that you can fuck around with a student with that and play with that with a safe weapon and go, so
or even concepts like the last time we talked, you were talking about the tactical snack, and I love that. And I've gotten a lot of great feedback on that from that episode. People really dug that idea a lot.
Yeah. So that reminded me, every 90 days, I run a program called BTS 90, Built to Survive 90 Days. And it's me coaching you every single day. And once a week, we get on a live call with all the people that signed up. And I'm teaching you the tactical snacks, teaching you the spear, and teaching you my no fear program. And these are great things where, I'm turning 65. I don't teach a lot anymore. So it's a way people can actually interact with me, not a spreadsheet, actually interact with me, ask questions. So we have a lot of resources. BTS 90 is one, 90-day transformation. We've got our garage gym twice a week. I teach live Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's fantastic. We have probably the world's biggest library of online, training almost 800 classes: active shooter, gun disarms, multiple assailant, fear management, situational awareness. These are all classes that that I've taught, and then we recorded and then put them up in a showcase. So you can go in there and Google fear, Google, active killer, and like 8 classes will pop up, and you can, it's amazing for instructors. It's amazing for beginners. If you're with an agency and organization, and we still teach, we just got back from Canada where we were teaching. It was for operators, hostage rescue, emergency response. We just got back from the UK where we're training the prison service. We do stuff all over the world. So if you have an organization and you want to train and learn our system, just contact me and we'll make that happen. And we've got like 44 videos up online. And don't patronize me, but patronize my products.
Well, and for those of you out there listening that might be newer to the field or might, not have kind of the experience in the training background yet, Coach Blauer has been a huge pioneer and influence on the whole field for a long time. So definitely seek this stuff out without a doubt. And we got to do this again, man. I enjoy this every time we do it.
Yeah, it zip by, and happy to, if your audience digs it, maybe ask them, if you're still listening, send in a bunch of questions. We'll do another one. You and I will talk, and we can answer 2, 3, 5, 10 questions. We can do that.
I like that. Yeah, we should do a Q&A next time for sure. Yeah, no, let's set that one up. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll definitely do more with Tony, with Coach Blauer, if he's willing. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see everybody soon.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Way is in Training. Please come back again as we explore how training makes us better at our craft and better in our everyday lives. See all of you soon.